Hi, this is Kezzy at K Ranch, and I'm going to show you how to hang a tail bag today so that there's less breakage and that they stay in nicely for everyday use. So here are the supplies that I'm first going to use. I use a nice tail bag with lots of stretch, and it has straps, and then my favorite conditioning product is the Equifuse Moisture Shine Serum. It makes their tails really soft. The less you brush tails, the more the hair grows and the healthier it grows. So a good conditioning product is much better than a hairbrush for everyday use. And then some bands to hold the braids in. So let's get started. First thing I do is I separate the top hair off of the tail. This is going to serve as a protective barrier over the top of the tail bag so that if they rub or while they're swatting flies, there's less breakage off the top of the tail bag. And that's for that everyday use or out in the pasture. When I show, I don't always take this separate piece out. I just stick it all in for one night. And then out of the bottom hairs, I just do a braid. So I separate it into the typical 3 sections. And this is after using the conditioning product and putting it all nice in his tail so that when it's bagged, it's being conditioned and is nice and soft and keeps the tangles out. The top of the braid I always keep pretty loose, but you want to make sure and braid straight down and not pull it out like this to you. Otherwise, it's going to be sticking straight out off of his tailbone. So nice and loose at the top, and then once I get a couple folds, then I can make it just typical braiding, nice and tight all the way to the bottom. So I want it nice and loose at the top again for breakage. As they're swishing their tails and moving around, I like it nice and loose so that there's more room for the hair to move around and not pull on the tailbone and break. I keep tails up to help them grow fuller and longer and not break out in the pasture so that when it comes to show time, they have a nice, full, healthy tail. In the summer, sometimes I'll add some twine tails at the bottom for swatting flies, or a nice tail bag that is long and has some tassels for swatting flies. But my show horses, the more their tails are up, the healthier and thicker they grow. So I just finished and I banded the bottom of the tail all the way as long as you can until the end. Then I make a hole in the braid, maybe a couple braids down from the top, and I stick the tail through. And then I do the same thing at the bottom, make a hole, and I stick the tail through, and then just pull the band part so it's folded like this. And then I take more bands and I stick a band around the bottom below the rubber band from the bottom braid, and then one above just to kind of keep the tail, help keep it folded nicely. So now you have kind of a big clump there. Then I grab the tail bag and I stick just the clump, so I leave all these top hairs we talked about. Stick the clump inside the tail bag, and then at the top of the braid, I stick one tassel end of the tail bag through one part of the braid, and then I stick the other one through the other side. So this is all below the tailbone. You should never tie around the tailbone so you don't cut off circulation or cause damage to the actual tailbone. Then I'll put one tie on it, wrap it around below on top of the tail bag part, and tie again, and then go even lower and tie one more time, and then the last tie, this time, I'll tie twice, so do double knot there. This will help not let the tail bag come out of the bag when they're swishing. So often they'll be swishing flies, and sometimes the tail bag will still be in, but the tail won't be in it. So this helps close that top of the tail bag. And then this isn't necessary per se, but I then tuck the tassels just folded in half kind of in there to kind of have them bunched up. And so this is what it looks like when it's done. So they have a nice tail covering the top, so if they rub their tail on the stall wall or get it stuck on something, it's a lot less likely to pull hairs out and cause breakage. And his tail's so long, he actually has a little hair to swat flies with as well. But this is what I do, and it stays in for pretty much as long as I want it to until I redo it, and often I redo it when I notice that this is starting to get kind of mussed up and messy and no longer really being clean and neat, and I'll take it out and I will redo it. So that works for me, and it stays in really nicely, and it helps make those nice show tails that we want. This is Kezzy again from K Ranch, showing you how to hang a tail bag. Next time.